Hi everyone and welcome to Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. Today we are at Grimey's Records in Nashville, Tennessee with radio personality and television host Bobby Bones. Bobby just picked out his top 5 vinyl and we're going to talk about what makes these his favorites. On Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. Hey guys, this is Vinyl Obsession. I'm your host Eric Young and this is Bobby Bones. Bobby Bones is a radio and television personality who hosts the Bobby Bones Show. He was a mentor on American Idol for 4 seasons and was the winner of season 27 of Dancing with the Stars. Bobby Bones, we gave you a pretty interesting task today, a top 5, coming in, narrowing it down, picking a top 5, which is an impossible feat, but I think you did awesome, man.
You say that to everybody, I'm sure. It's like when somebody gets a new haircut, you have to go, your hair looks great. Like you have to acknowledge they got a haircut if it's a crazy haircut. And if I was here with 5 records and you were like, they're fair.
Yeah, not a great
This
list.
would just end. Yeah, we would so.
But I think, so say this is reversed and I picked 5. I got a feeling the way that you look at music is kind of similar how I look at it. I love it all. I own over 2,000 vinyl albums at my house and it grows every day. And that's because I'm one of those people that does literally listen to all kinds of music because I like and appreciate all of it. And the list it's wide. And listening to you go through and upstairs and talking about the different ones, I'm interested when you're younger, country music, that's what your lead into music was. Traditional country music. How do you find yourself on a pop radio station later on in life?
Yeah, my grandma raised me, so she adopted me, and that's what she listened to. So we just kind of listen to what our parents or whomever raises us. I went and actually begged for a job at a country radio station first because I was in Arkansas, and there were 72 of them and one other one, and so they didn't hire me, and they shouldn't have because I was a teenager.
Right.
I went to a pop station, and again, I begged. And they didn't hire me to be on the air. They hired me to clean up the radio station. But before the first weekend, when I was to clean up and switch out the Rick D's Weekly Top 40, somebody got fired for stealing station equipment, which I think is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, that somebody got a little sticky fingered.
Yep.
And so they were like, you got to go on the air. And I'm 17, 18 years old. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, your name's Bobby Bones. And I'm like, that's a stupid name. And I do. And that's still my name today because I've never been able to shake it. But, even then I was in pop music, but I also grew up in the South, but I also grew up when Napster was a thing.
Yep.
So you would just click the letter L and go to sleep and wake up with every song that started with L in the history of the world for free.
Yep.
And I didn't understand why we had to pay for it. And I was mad at Metallica. What do you mean we got to pay for it? You guys suck. Now I get it. Yep. But so for me, it's kind of like an Outliers where, Bill Gates just wouldn't have been a computer guy if he wasn't near the one computer in Minnesota or wherever he was.
Yep.
And for me, if I hadn't been born, in the 80s and had Napster, but also been born in the South, but also, had a grandmother who raised me on contemporary country, it's just a weird mix of mashed potatoes. But it's super cool, and I'm glad that I now have all this, semi-knowledge of music and all these genres.
Yeah, it's awesome. And mashed potatoes are delicious. But
they are, and a lot of different stuff.
Everyone likes mashed potatoes. All right. The top 5 list. We don't have to do it in any particular order. Let's just go through the list.
If you made me put an order, I might just leave because you already made me do 5.
Yeah.
Now if I had to rank them.
I'm not going to subject you. I think you did very well with the first task. I'm not going to gift you another one.
Thank you.
Final number 1.
I did pick John Mayer Continuum. And it's so cliche that it's cool again. Yeah. I say that.
Yeah.
Because it's me.
Yep.
So it's just really cliche. But I love this album. I've loved John Mayer. I had the EP Inside Once Out, which I was like, God dang, this guy's awesome. And so he was a little older, but he was like my age, because you need someone a few years older than you to kind of speak for you. And Heavier Things was really good. It was right before this one, but when this one came out, I was just like, oh man, this guy's talking for me.
Yeah.
Not just something that I relate to. Like country music would talk about where I was from.
Yep.
Alternative music would talk about kind of like the ballad stuff. Would talk about how I felt.
Yep.
But nothing really talked about like who I was until you get this sensitive singer, songwriter guy who's kind of awkward and he takes his guitar, and I just felt like it was me. It's like when you're watching a really good stand-up comedian, you're like, oh, I was thinking that. I just wasn't smart enough to say it.
Yep.
That type of thing.
Yep.
That's what this record was to me. It was what Continuum was.
It's what we're waiting on the world to change. Keep on waiting.
probably been to 20 Mayer shows. And there was a brief time when we were kind of friends for a little bit, and I would go, and I was working on American Idol, and him and Katy Perry had broken up, and he'd be like, how's Katy? And I'd be like, this is awkward. So, but love John, big John Mayer music guy.
I'm crazy lyrically, guitar player too.
Oh yeah, really one of the best
He's
living guitar players. I think because he is kind of pretty boy, that he doesn't sometimes get the
fully
credit.
get it.
Yeah,
Right,
like if he would like rip a tooth out or cut an earlobe off or something, they'd be like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
But we don't really want the people that are good looking to also have great skills. At least I don't.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
You don't get both, man.
Nope.
One or the other.
And I have neither, so I get really irritated.
I mean, I don't have anything either, man.
And I would see these guys, 3 Jewish kids from New York, and go, they're breaking every rule.
Yeah.
Yet they're breaking every rule so hard it works, and like they were respected.
This is Vinyl Obsession, the podcast, and we're back with radio host Bobby Bones. Vinyl number 2.
Beastie Boys, License to Ill.
I love this, man.
God, man, this is like the ultimate. This is when it comes to, there were 2, we'll call them art pieces to me that made me feel like I could do what I do. One of them was David Letterman, The Late Show with David Letterman.
Yeah.
Because here's a guy who was goofy, irreverent, didn't look like all the other. And I was like, man, if he can do that, then I can do what I want to do. Because he didn't fit the mold. The tooth had a gap.
Yep.
Everything about David Letterman, from Indiana, Boston. And before that, though, it was the Beastie Boys. Because you're not supposed to be goofy and do hip hop.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be. And I would see these guys, 3 Jewish kids from New York, and go, they're breaking every rule.
Yeah.
Yet they're breaking every rule so hard it works, and like they were respected. And so, and then when I would see them together, and I'd see Beastie Boys on Letterman, and they would be playing, Sabotage. They play instruments at the same time, and Ad Rock would be back. It was just, to me, like that was those 2 things, like the Beastie Boys and David Letterman, were so influential in me just going, I can kind of do what I want to do because they're doing it.
You're living in rural southern United States. I'm living in rural Canada. For me, it was a gateway into it being okay for me to like hip hop music as a chubby white kid. There's these 3 Jewish kids playing rap music, and like you said earlier, it's funny, lyrically, it's dynamic and it's cool, and they're saying things kind of that I'm thinking, and the music itself is awesome, right? It's especially when you saw them on David Letterman, or you saw them on Jay Leno or The Tonight Show or whatever. They're playing instruments, so it's this mixed match of the 2. That's one of my favorite albums too. I mean, maybe if you ask me tomorrow, it's different, but it's such a cool gateway for me too. And we're around the same age. I think it's, for both of us, was this cool gateway into this other world.
And I grew up in a town that is still segregated by railroad tracks.
Right.
It was half what they call white quarters, half what they call black quarters. And so there's a lot of hip hop where I grew up. And the Beastie Boys were kind of the first hip hop group that I was like, I can say all the words.
Yeah.
Really, because I didn't really want to talk about drugs. But the Beastie Boys, to me, it was like, they kind of made me feel like I could be a part of hip hop.
Vinyl number 3.
Kacey Musgraves. We got in a big fight one time. It was awesome because she just was like, F you. And I was like, F you. And I'm like, we're awesome together. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I love Kacey. And so same trailer, different park for me was, it still is my favorite contemporary album. I have a jukebox in my house. I think this is the most played record.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, on it.
Yeah,
that
cool.
And the Chris Stapleton one, which I didn't even pick. I just remembered I left that off. And people say this, and again, it's very cliche to say, you can just tell, they can just hear the pain in his voice.
Yep.
And it's easy now, hindsight, to say that because obviously he was in pain.
Welcome back to Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. Today, we have radio personality and television host Bobby Bones talking about his top 5 vinyl. Vinyl number 4.
I hate people that pick like greatest hits albums.
I picked a greatest hits album for mine, so just go ahead, keep going.
Okay. Well, this isn't really a greatest hits album. It's the only reason I would allow it.
Yep.
Nirvana Unplugged in New York was so good to me because it was the band that I loved that played so aggressive and at times purposely sloppy.
Yeah.
And they weren't here.
Yeah.
They had there were flowers.
Acoustic.
It was totally acoustic. They were doing, David Bowie songs, Meat Puppets. They were doing
Lead Belly.
Yeah, all which introduced me to some of those bands as well.
Me too. Yep.
So I had this record to thank for that, and then, Jesus Don't Want Me as a Sunbeam. I would just go like, I don't know what it means, but I feel it.
Yeah.
Just because you could just tell, and people say this, and again, it's very cliche to say, you could just tell, you could just hear the pain in his voice.
Yep.
And it's easy now, hindsight, to say that because obviously he was feeling pain.
Yep.
But I love Nirvana Unplugged. I know every word to even the talking parts.
Yeah.
And that's how you know you really love the record, when you can
100%.
also quote the talking parts
all
to
the
it.
way through.
Yes.
Every word.
Yep.
Every second.
Jesus don't wanna throw a sunbeam.
That's
And that series, that MTV Unplugged series, Alice in Chains did another amazing one too. I own it. I own that one. And I wish that still was the thing. Like taking bands that are popular, stripping them down, doing that. Like I love both of those albums.
They did
obsessed.
a really cool one too with LL Cool J, which was MTV Unplugged, and it was the first time I had seen a hip hop artist just go with musical instruments.
Yeah.
And now a lot of hip hop artists do it because you got to be so musical, just 360 degrees even to be in hip hop now. And a lot of these guys are proficient in playing music and knowing music. But I remember LL Cool J doing it, and I was kind of blown away by hip hop.
Yep.
And VH1 then did Storytellers, kind of a similar type thing where Counting Crows did Across a Live Wire, that double album that was the VH1. I can quote that whole thing too, where it's like, now my favorite band, Counting Crows, and he comes on and sings. But yeah, I love Unplugged in New York, love Nirvana.
Yep.
My wife makes fun of me because I love Counting Crows. But what's hilarious is the music that she likes now is basically the same thing.
Yep.
Because it's come all the way back around. And we'll listen to her sing her song. It's the exact same stuff. I'm like, you're out of your mind. You're not better than me.
Welcome back to Vinyl Obsession, the podcast. We're taking a look at Bobby Bones' top vinyl picks. Vinyl number 5.
My wife makes fun of me because I love Counting Crows, because my wife is almost 12 years younger than I am. And she's like, why do you always listen to middle-aged men who whine?
Right.
And she does an impression of Adam Duritz. She's like, no. But what's hilarious is the music that she likes now is basically the same thing.
Yep.
Because it's come all the way back around. And we'll listen to her sing her song. It's the exact same stuff. I'm like, you're out of your mind. You're not better than me.
No.
And Counting Crows is my favorite band. Just everything about this record reminds me of some part of my 13, 14-year-old self.
Yep.
They say music, if you listen to it a bunch of times in 1 year of your life, when you hear it again later, for a split second, you have that feeling,
Yep.
that same feeling. And, Round Here was the first song on the record, and it's, and it starts slow and builds, and thought it was a great song. I always wanted to be played at my funeral. I'd say that when I was like 15. I don't really want to play at my funeral anymore, but I was like, when I die, I play Round Here. Everybody else was picking P. Diddy, I'll Be Missing You, or Puff Daddy, I'll Be Missing You at the time. And I was like, you better play Counting Crows. And so, but then, Mr. Jones, which was a huge radio song, but if it's your favorite band, you can't like their huge radio song as your favorite song.
Right, you gotta pick another one.
Absolutely. So that song was it wasn't garbage, but to me, it's like, this song is garbage. You guys, only like.
You gotta hear this other song.
Yeah, you got to hear like Sullivan Street, man. So, but I still listen to this album.
Yep.
Whenever I just want to have music on, as I do something else where I just can feel good as I'm like writing, because it's like watching The Office.
Yep.
Like I put it on. Yeah, I put it on. It feels good. I already know what's going to happen, but I know I like what's going to happen.
Yep.
And so I just put it on and do it. And Adam Duritz was super cool to me when I hung out with him earlier this year. So that's not number 5, but it's in my top 5.
So you're saying about the nostalgia of like hearing a song and it transporting you back. Round Here for me, it's a distinct memory. I hear that song. I'm in a truck with my dad. We're driving to a hockey game that I played in, and we're singing it, and he knows it. And like, that's the cool part of music and buying albums. I think the cool part of vinyl for me is the ritual of opening it, being careful, and putting it on the thing and dropping the needle on, but also hearing the songs that you wouldn't hear played on the radio, right? And you're listening to the music the way the artist intended it. So it's, you know, so many discoveries of amazing songs that never got played on the radio because they weren't the ones that were selected. Like you're saying, how music now is not album driven, it's singles, right? They're releasing singles, but buying it this way is the coolest way.
And when you buy a record, when you buy vinyl, a couple things happen. One, it's blown up. Even the visual, the art that they want you to see.
Same art on a CD, but it feels more.
You actually can see the word. I remember having this on CD and I didn't really pay attention to, but now you can read the lyrics that he's written back here. And also it's harder to skip songs. Which you're like, well, that sucks. No, it doesn't. It actually encourages you to invest more time.
That's right.
So you just don't dispose of songs so quickly. Which
you
you're able, which I agree. So, you know, I think vinyl, if anything, the art itself is cool.
It's what draws you to it originally with your eyes. And then, like you were saying, the commitment that you've made to picking it or getting it. Like I order some through, you know, online and get them sent to me. I have subscription-based things that just get sent, and I discover other cool music. I discovered the Black Pumas that way, like 8 years ago. A company in town here sent me one of theirs, and I was like, man, this sounds amazing. And I've listened to it over and over and over. So what's another one of the jukebox songs that gets played often in your house?
I mean, there's a lot of Stapleton and Harry Styles. You know, because my wife also has access to the jukebox. But I love Harry Styles.
So
I'm gonna act like I don't. Harry Styles is awesome. And so, but there's, you know, like Nashville, Bob Dylan, Nashville Skyline, like that's something that I'll play a bunch. You know, somebody like we listen to a lot of Justin Bieber because Justin Bieber has got a catalog.
So many.
And I'm like, oh, you're this again, and then don't lie. Yeah, still, you know, I love it too. So it's pretty diverse. My wife grew up in Oklahoma, so she definitely loves 2000s country, but is way more into the current pop scene, which kind of keeps me in it. But then again, she's very much into the singer-songwriters, and she grew up right near where Zach Bryan grew up. And, you know, she's like, oh, listen to this. I mean, it's the Counting Crows just 15, 20 years later. And so it's pretty cool that we have a similar music taste, even if she wants to make fun of mine.
Yeah, that's fine. You make fun of the Counting Crows all they want. They're awesome.
That's right.
Yeah, they're awesome.
One thing you'll never take from them is their awesomeness or their ability to whine with a great melody.
And it's a great album.
And there's a lot of whining. She's right.
You own it and I own it, and that's all that matters.
That's all, just me and you only.
All right, Bobby, thanks for doing the top 5, man. That it's a great list. I'm not just saying that. I think it was reversed.
You are just saying that, but that's okay.
You would make
I'll
fun of my
okay.
greatest hits, my CCR greatest hits. Which
are you kidding? My first song I ever played as a band was from the CCR Greatest Hits album.
See? We're the same. We're the same.
We did do looking out my back door.
I'm not a singer.
So I'm not either, but we played that. I had that album, yes.
I had to pick the Greatest Hits album because it has all.
Yeah, and it's purplish.
Yeah.
And it's got, and John Fogerty, the Fogerty brothers, freaking rock. The Greatest Hits, I'll accept that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm still in his good graces. Tell people where they can find you, what you got going on, man.
You can find me at my house. My address, I'm just kidding. Do not come to my house. Just Mr. Bobby Bones on social media and on the radio. You know, I'm on a couple hundred stations and I'm looking at all 3 cameras just so I get it all clear here. But I'm on a bunch of radio stations. But my podcast, you know, is also, I do a podcast called the Bobby Cast, which is very much, I would say art-based, art-driven, songwriter-driven, producer-driven, more so than an artist coming in to talk about, you know, why they can play a G chord. You know, it's mostly inspiration behind even caring about music.
Right.
So the Bobby Cast is really, it's a passion project I've been doing. We have 500 episodes now.
Love it.
And that's it. So I'm going to go, and you guys told me I have to pay for these records in real life too. That sucks. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here.
Okay, guys, that has been Vinyl Obsession. I'm Eric Young. He's Bobby Bones. He's obsessed. I'm obsessed. And we'll see you later.